Okay, we're going to open the meeting of the FAA. It's October
23rd.
23rd, 2018. First order of business is to stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Everybody should have the minutes of our last meeting in your packet. Hopefully you had a chance to go over that. If you see any corrections that you need. Anybody want to make a motion to accept the minutes of October 1st, 2018?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I second the motion.
All right,
It's required.
all right. Any changes at all? No? All right, seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we are going to open up public business, open the public hearing. It is 6:05. First order of business. Oh, it's not a public hearing?
No, just a meeting.
Oh, okay,
The last meeting was a posted public hearing.
okay. So we got in front of us the town warrant. Everything's all in order on the town warrant, and I think we should go over it one article at a time, if you want to do that.
Yeah, I have a little summary kind of showing what we have and what we have available for articles, what the dollars are. Everything's kind of summarized on one page. So what we did was I broke it down between, I listed the article, the amount needed, and whether we would fund it through free cash, raise and appropriate, or whether we would not fund it at all.
Okay.
So I think this is kind of the sheet that you were looking at. I can give this to Rich.
If you had one, absolutely, thank you.
Okay, so just before we start, Greg, free cash amount was
309,
309.
632.
Okay,
Raise and appropriate, 128, 337.
okay,
As I mentioned to you before, one of my goals was to put money into the stabilization fund.
yep,
So under Article 28, it proposes $30,000 for the stabilization fund. It also proposes leaving town meeting with an unspent balance in free cash of $30,741. And so that's been accomplished. It's not quite as high as we've done in some past years because the amount of free cash that we have is a little bit less than what we've had in past years. So if you kind of look historically, what we have for free cash in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been about 400,000. So this year we're at 309. The good news is we have some new growth, and we have the accountant and I got together and took another look at our estimated receipts, and those result in the $128,337 that we'd have available. So that kind of comprises the funding in a nutshell, in terms of what we have. And then I did my best to go through and fund things based upon what my understanding was. You're free to change and make your own recommendations, but at least wanted us to get to the point where you have something in front of you that accomplishes the fact that we get through town meeting, and we do so with a little bit left with stabilization fund and an amount held open in the spring if we need to have additional funding.
okay. What would that bring stabilization to?
So it would bring stabilization to 235, a little bit over 235, Mike. The balance right now is 205.
205, okay.
Yep. So if we add an additional 30 to it, just a little bit over 235.
Okay. Any questions before we start going through the warrant articles? All right, Article 1 and 2 are kind of your standard articles.
Yep.
Does anybody want to make a motion on these two articles?
Make a
Or
motion
FRE.
to accept them.
Okay. Second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on Article 1 and 2? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So 1 and 2 have been recommended. Article 3 is that supplemental budget.
Mr. Chairman, should have a handout. Thanks, Dennis.
Is this the appendix for
It
the
is.
supplemental budget?
It
Okay.
is.
Has there been any changes to this since
It's-
our last time that we?
Yeah, we've dropped the amount for veterans' benefits
Yeah.
from 80,000 to 40,000
Mhm.
based upon the report that was given to the Board of Selectmen by the Veterans Services Officer.
Okay.
This is based upon what we expect our costs to be for the remainder of the fiscal year, so it's not a number that we just arbitrarily came up with. The other items all are deferrals from the annual town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we said that if we had the money, we would go back and take a look at them and consider them for funding for this town meeting.
Question, since I'm not familiar. What's the veterans' benefits? What is that?
So it's Chapter 115 under the general laws, that any veteran that proves that they have a financial need or financial hardship is entitled to receive an amount on a monthly basis to meet their financial needs. They have to go through a waiver hardship case, and the Veterans Director, Services Director, determines eligibility. And once that eligibility is determined, qualified veterans and their dependents are entitled to get an amount on a monthly
All right, so is
stipend.
this 40,000 in addition, or is this what you put for the whole year?
Yes, so this is not, we would have appropriated $120,000 at the town meeting in the spring for veterans'
Okay.
benefits. So this would, with this 40, it would bring us to a total of 160, and it's for Chapter 115 benefits. One thing to keep in mind is the Commonwealth reimburses the town 75 cents for every dollar that we spend in veterans' benefits. So we're responsible for administering them, but when we pay out, we will anticipate and receive revenue from the state reimbursing us for 3/4 of the
And where
cost.
does that go?
So it goes to the general fund, so when we receive our revenues every year and we vote our budget at town meeting, there's an amount on the cherry sheet, which is state revenues that come to the town, that actually says veterans' benefits. And so that's how the money comes back to the
Okay.
town.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the Appendix A? So we have a total request of $120,100, and that is going to be funded by raise and appropriate.
Correct. And our thought on that is it's a reoccurring cost, it's budget money, so we want to use a reoccurring revenue
Mhm.
source to fund them.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on this article?
No.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to accept it.
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion on it? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Article 3 is passed. Article 4 is a absentee trust. And I think we went over this once before.
Yep,
Greg,
it's
you
the amount that we need to pay employees for end-of-career retirement costs. So the town has obligations to pay employees for unused sick time, and we buy back a portion of their vacation time. And so this equals the amount that we pay. Otherwise, what ends up happening is we take it from the departmental budget, and it creates a hardship within that budget, because some of these end-of-career buyouts can be fairly significant, and it would really cripple a department. So what we do is we try to set aside money in anticipation of what retirements we see over the next year, and this is what we've estimated the cost would be.
36,000 and that's coming out of free cash.
Correct.
No question.
Okay.
No,
Anybody
no
wanna,
questions.
we'll need a motion on it,
I make a motion to accept Article 4.
as written. Okay. We have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion on Article 4? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving Article 4? Aye.
Aye.
All right, Article 4 is approved. Article 5, I don't know if we can lump these two together, no, we won't do that. Article 5 is an unpaid bill, I think Worcester Telegram and Gazette,
Right.
for $180, obviously it would come out of free cash. And it's kind of self-explanatory. It needs a 4/5 vote, though.
It does.
What is it, why does it need a
It's
4/5
a
vote?
quirk in the law. The law says you have to, at an annual town meeting, to pay an unpaid bill of a prior year, you need a 4/5 vote. If it's at a special town meeting, you need a 9/10 vote. Some things you need a 2/3 vote, so it's just one of those odd items.
That's odd, that's,
There's no real logic to some of this stuff.
okay. All right, any questions on this? Anyone want to make a motion on this one?
Well, I make a motion to accept Article 5 as written.
All
I'll
right,
second it.
okay, any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All right. Article 6 is another unpaid bill, in the amount of $1,998. Basically same, what was that? Oh, Print Solutions, so printing the annual report. Any questions for Greg or anything like that? Okay, so I'll need a motion on that one too.
I make a motion to accept Article 6. That comes out of free cash too,
It does.
Yes.
as written.
Okay,
Okay.
second. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Article 7, this is, really doesn't pertain to us as far as, financial stuff. This is, I don't know how many pages this is.
It had no financial implications.
So we're gonna defer on this to the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a good point since they're the sponsor of the article.
All right. So what are we up to? Article 8. This is to put 5,000 in the FAA reserve account. Any reason?
It was one of those things that we're systematically trying to increase the FAA reserve and the snow budget annually. So there doesn't need to be any reasoning other than the fact that they're incredibly low compared to other towns. So, for example, the last time I was in the FAA, the Finance Reserve Fund was $100,000 a year. It just makes sense to try to build it, and $5,000 a year is kind of our commitment.
All right.
And if you don't spend it, great.
Right, exactly.
It's under your control.
Unless you guys want to spend it, no, tonight, party
me.
or something, okay.
Yeah, go buy some tickets.
There you go, lottery ticket.
Smart man.
Okay, any questions for Greg on this before? All right, so we'll need a motion on Article
I
8.
make a motion to accept Article 8 as written.
All right, is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Article 8. Article 10, that's the town accountant, so we'll defer that to town accountant. Article 10, capital improvement. This is 13,303.33. This is to pay the debt, the interest on the loan for the HVAC and the roof. Any questions for Greg on this one? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Rich, you have anything to add for this one, or?
What's the period of time that interest?
Oh, Rich.
I have a lot of questions because I don't know anything.
I have a few minutes. Good evening. So,
Good evening.
through the chair, the
Okay,
questions?
is this an annual interest or,
Yes, it's an annual interest.
okay,
Municipal finance, we're borrowing money for a year or less. It's a ban, it's a bond anticipation note, it's a short-term note. There's no pay downs on it or anything like that. We borrowed it on this day, we pay it on that day. We have the ability to make 1/3, 1/4, or 1/5 pay downs. We're not making a payment this year, we're paying interest only, which means next year we either make a 1/4 pay down, or we can go to a 1/3, but we're paying interest. It would be reissued. Interest rates are rising, so that's the gamble we'll take.
Any other questions on this one?
No.
All right, so I'll need a motion on this.
One other
Oh, go ahead,
thing,
Rich.
if I could interject. This is a short-term note, and you have the ability to go through and get it on a debt exclusion if you wanted to permanently bond this. Send it out for whatever it is, 10 years, and exclude it from the tax rate, too. Don't know how many times you want to go to the well or want to entreat the selectmen in which to do so, but you could do it. For example, we borrowed $500,000, paid interest only. We did that twice for the fire station. Ultimately, we made no principal pay downs. We issued the permanent debt, and now we're going to be making our twice annual payments for it. But it is debt excluded, so.
Okay. Any questions on that? No. Okay. Anybody
I make a motion to accept Article 10 as written.
All right. Need a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any other discussion on that? All right, all in favor, say aye. All right. Okay, Article 11, this is, so this is just a transfer?
Right, and the motion parallels what the Personnel Board approved.
Okay,
So the Personnel Board did not approve the 2552.55. They did approve $1,000 in recognition of the Assistant Treasurer receiving her certification.
okay.
Quick question to the chairman, to the town administrator. Are we going to set up a parallel certification line item, or does this change the assistant treasurer collector's salary by $1,000 for the year? What?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to handle it similar to how yours is handled, Rich. And if there's
Okay.
a separate line item for certification, it makes some sense to include this in similar fashion.
Thank you.
And so the 1,000's gonna come from raise and appropriate?
Yes.
Was there a reason why the Personnel Board brought this down to 1,000?
Yeah, I was at the meeting, and I don't want to speak in too much detail relative to what the reasoning was behind their vote. But they felt as though the employee had received recent increases that were fairly significant, and they did not want to set a pattern where one employee was being increased at a disproportionately high rate compared to other employees.
Okay.
That was their concern.
All right. Any other questions on this? All right, need a motion?
I make a motion to accept Article 11 as written.
Okay, can we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Article 12. 2655. We have a recommendation by the town administrator to pass this over. I imagine this is gonna be passed over till,
Let Rich speak on the issue. It's his article.
okay.
Originally, this was an article that included the town clerk. Little background, my salary can't be changed other than at a town meeting. Whereas, for example, Michelle Jervis does a wonderful job. The selectmen hold their meeting and make a recommendation that she gets 10 cents more an hour. Congratulations. They can do it outside of a town meeting, whereas we can't. So the town clerk and I had originally put in an article. She had pulled out her portion of it. Part of it was a 2% increase, and part of it was a 1% increase in that the second half of 2018, town hall employees got a 1% for 6 months. That was corrected for the town clerk and the treasurer collector, but it was only for the last 40 days of the quarter. So going forward, I believe I didn't get the, whatever it's going to be, 140-something days worth of the 1%. And the town clerk, like I said, had pulled this out. Maybe this is something I will revisit in the spring. And of course, it's the benchmark against what the town hall receives. So we'll handle this at the spring town meeting. Historically, Ora and I have been catching up on what had previously happened. So this was put in hopes of sort of timing things. I mean, just last Thursday, the personnel board reviews came out. So they usually come out in August for a September review. So we're a little late on that, and that's okay. We'll wait till the spring on this.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody have a question for Rich on this? So the recommendation is to pass over till the spring. We have a motion.
I make a motion to accept Article 12 as written.
You want to pass it over, or? Then we need a motion to pass it over. We're gonna pass it over?
Yeah,
So I need to word it like that, include the word pass over?
yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to accept Article 12 and pass it over to spring.
I'll second it.
All right, that sounds good, right?
I'd resubmit it independently. You just pass over it and let it,
So you don't need
Okay.
that, all right,
send it to a study committee.
all right, so why don't you reword that one?
Sorry.
Okay. So how do I word this again?
Recommend that we pass over Article 12.
That's it.
Okay. I recommend that we pass over Article 12.
All right, do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All right. Any other discussion?
No.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Article 13 is library custodial services account. It's just a transfer, no, it's the, you're gonna,
Free cash.
free cash, Greg?
Yeah, and the purpose of it is that library has a custodial service.
Mm-hmm.
It's inadequate to serve all of the needs in the library.
Mm-hmm.
And this would provide an additional 1 hour per day in custodial services, and is supported by the trustees.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg or anything? All right. Anybody want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to accept Article 13.
Yeah, I'll
as written.
second.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 14 is the fire station. So, we kind of went over this a little bit last time. Basically, the contingency fee, the contingency amounts were kind of used up with the soil. It
Right,
was
so
soil.
contaminated soil.
Right, so there was soil contaminated there. This is basically just to get the extra 225 into, is that,
Yes, you got it right. The contingency was used up by contaminated soils and withdrawal of one of the sub-bidders on the project. So those two items alone came to almost $200,000. And then there was some additional cost that the town incurred. What the concern was is that we were 5% into the project, and I think it was 65% of the contingency had already been used up. So it was the recommendation, unanimous recommendation of the building committee, that we go to town meeting and request an additional $225,000. And we applied to the Department of Revenue that it be approved under the initial debt exclusion that was voted for the project. So all of that language is in the motion. To do all of those things. If the DOR comes back and says no, then the town really has a choice of whether it wants to put it before the voters in the form of a supplementary debt exclusion question, but remains to be seen whether that's the case. I'm pretty confident that this will be approved when it goes to the DOR.
And capital improvement approved that. So basically, to understand this a little better, this is basically just, it's not that the 225 is needed right now to be spent on
Correct.
anything. This is just a cushion.
Correct, but we encountered unforeseen conditions that resulted in the contingency being eroded, and
Right.
the project management team, consisting of the architect and the project manager, both feel it's risky going forward without having adequate contingency to protect the project.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions on this one? Okay.
I make a motion to accept Article 14 as written.
All right.
I second it.
Okay, any other discussion on this? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Article 16, right? Article 15 is, what do we have here?
15 is just transferring money
Transfer.
that we recovered from that subcontractor that defaulted
Okay,
and putting it back toward the project.
okay,
Doesn't cost us any additional money.
right, so it's just a transfer?
Right.
All right, anybody wanna make a motion on this one?
I make a motion to accept Article 15 as written.
All right,
I second it.
okay, any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Article 16 is $10,788 to the supplement and assist to fire, what is this? This is the fire grant, right? How much was the total grant on this? Greg, do you remember? You know? You know, Rich?
215,
215, somewhere around
I
there?
believe.
So he received it for the air packs, about 215 in a grant, and this is just what we're required to match? Is that how that-
Exactly.
Exactly, okay.
So you gotta contribute a little bit of money to get a lot of
Get
money.
a lot of money, right, exactly.
Good deal.
Yep,
Very good deal.
all right. Anybody have any questions for Greg, or, okay? Do we wanna have a motion on this one?
I make a motion to accept Article 16 as written.
Okay,
I second.
okay, any other discussion on that? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Article 17 is the, what is this one here? This is, for the 10 sets of fire gear. This seems to be coming up every,
Been deferred a number of times.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's why you say it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
It's because every time it comes up, we say we haven't got money to fund it. So now we
Greg, how many sets of gear do they need overall? And how often does this change?
one for every firefighter and call firefighter
So
that's
how many-
there.
How many do we,
I don't know off the top. I don't have the number at
Okay.
my fingertips, but I can tell you that when the gear is falling apart,
when's the,
it's time to upgrade it.
when's the last time we bought any of these? Was it, I don't think it's been a while.
It's been a while, and again, the concern is it's deteriorated to the point where we need to do something.
And it's
Right.
purchasing 10 sets,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it's 10 sets, but I'm just kind of wondering how many sets overall we're gonna be buying, if we were to buy them.
I can get you that information.
But,
I'll get you full information on that. I'll speak with the chief, and I'll contact the members of the committee so you're aware of that going into town meeting.
and this will fit into the free cash?
It will.
Okay, awesome. Any questions on this for Greg? All right. Need a motion on
I
this?
make a motion to accept Article 17 as written.
Okay,
I second.
okay. Any other discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Article 18, some salary adjustments for the fire department?
So the the selectmen have approved a new position, which is called Assistant Fire Chief,
Mm-hmm.
and a new lieutenant position, and this is the amount of money that's needed in this fiscal year to be able to accommodate that request.
For two positions?
Yeah, so they're promotions from within.
Promotions, okay.
So they're promotions, they're not new hires.
And that,
Because if they were new hires, they'd be the best deal in the world.
right. And that doesn't affect any other benefits they get,
Nope.
just salary?
Nope.
All right, any questions for Greg on this? All right. All right, and this is all coming out of free cash?
It is.
I make a motion to accept Article 18 as written.
Okay.
My question like this comes out of free cash this year. So next year, it becomes part of the budget,
It's exactly the strategy.
so it's not really free. It just,
There's no free in any of this
No.
stuff, because as you know, is the finite amount of money we deal with, and you're right, no, there's no free.
I'd love to take the word free out of all of this.
Yeah.
You make
It
a
used
motion?
to, it used to be called, excess and deficiency, E&D, but for some reason, the state got away from that and they wanna call it free cash. I guess it makes it sound like the state is giving the town free
they
money.
couldn't pronounce those big words.
Yeah, exactly, or spell them either.
All right, so did we have a second on Article 18?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Article 19 is, this is 12,000 to fund the 1/5 of the, that's a big word for me.
Quinennial.
Quinennial, recertification of the real estate property tax. This is, we do this every year.
Yeah, because we chip away at it a little bit at
Away
a
a
time,
little,
rather than doing it all at once.
That's, so
And
when,
we're mandated to do this.
that's when they reevaluate.
Yep.
Got it.
Any questions for Greg on this? All right.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be out of free cash also?
Yes.
All right,
I make a motion to accept Article 19 as written.
okay,
I'll second it.
second. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Article 19. Article 20, this is to upgrade the property appraisal software, vision appraisal. So this came in front of capital improvement. There were a couple options. I think one was to go with a service contract with vision appraisal.
Yeah, so,
Other was to buy a server.
right, and the option here is $26,000, which will be for the software, but the storage will be on the cloud. It will not be a server.
Right.
And that's the result, resulting in the $26,000, and that's what is recommended.
Okay. So, when it came in front of capital improvement, Greg, there was a little discussion on, the 6,000 was gonna be like a recurring.
It is.
Fee,
It is.
and then we kinda discussed a little bit about, would it be worth having the server? That's why we approved that at the higher level.
Right.
Buy the server,
We went back and we revisited it. We just feel that for the needs that we have, the cloud storage makes more sense. And that's what the IT department looked at it and recommends that.
okay. And this will be, then, that 6,000 extra will be part of the budget.
Yeah, I'm guessing the $6,000 will get us 1 year.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that it'll be in the budget in May of 2019,
Right.
town meeting.
Okay. Any questions on Article 20? Nope. All right.
I make a motion to accept Article 20 as written.
Okay,
And I'll second it.
all right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Article 20, we getting there. All right. Article 21, I'm not sure if this is something we need to, this is just upping the,
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
sorry. I got this at the last meeting.
no problem. So this is, I know they talked about it a little bit at the last selectmen's meeting. What exactly is this doing, Greg? I mean, it's just upping the amount they can pay out?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the bylaw right now says the selectmen can settle lawsuits up to $2,000. And the board's recommendation is that the amount be increased to 20,000. So under the law, the selectmen are the only department legally that has the ability to settle lawsuits.
Right.
So if there's a lawsuit that needs to be settled, the selectmen have the authority to do so. But they have to do it within the confines of the parameters defined by the bylaw.
Okay.
So 20,000 just allows them more latitude to be able to do it.
So with this, the way it was with 2,000, if they were sued for 20,000, what happens? What would,
We defend it.
you know,
We defend it, and sometimes council recommends that claims be settled,
yeah,
and then that comes before the board, and the board considers that and determines whether they want to settle or they want to defend the litigation. And in the event of it, in the event they decide they want to settle, then now they have an opportunity to settle up to $20,000.
up to 20. Is that standard, to
Yeah, I-
20,000, or?
I don't think 20,000 is unusual at all.
No.
No. I mean, you get a civil rights or discrimination claim filed against the town. Potentially, settlement could be $20,000
It could be
right out of the
higher
gate.
than that.
Right out of the gate. And sometimes settlements don't necessarily involve money, town money. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they involve money where the insurance company is willing to settle, but the town needs, the selectmen need to approve that settlement.
Okay. All right.
I make a motion to accept Article 21 as written.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion, questions on this? No? All right, all in favor, say aye. All right. Article 22, this is a personnel, Board of Selectmen.
It's another article, non-monetary in nature. Clarifying the responsibilities of the personnel board and providing that the town administrator will be serving as the personnel director.
Mr. Chairman, while you're reviewing it, may I ask a question through you to the town administrator?
Sure.
Of course.
This goes to town meeting, it gets passed, the Secretary of State deems it in order. Effective date would be,
The date that it's approved. The date-
reasonably,
the
when
date
the
that it's approved.
Secretary of State comes back and says.
That's right. Yeah, it's not like zoning, which goes into effect as of the date that it gets published.
All right, thank you.
So we're not required to make any motions on this. Zero 23. All right. What do you guys want to do on this? You want to defer this to the Board of Selectmen?
Sure.
Or do you want to make a recommendation? I mean, it really has nothing to do with finance, so.
Right, if we didn't have this conversation, like, what did it look like last year, I guess? Like, if there was a personnel problem or something.
Well, you have the personnel board serving as your personnel administrator. And I mean, I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to make it seem this is not my article. And I'm not here in this position forever. So I think it's fairly common that your professional staff also fulfills the role as being your collective bargaining agent, your personnel administrator, and has a say in the compensation of town officials. I don't feel that those are unusual things, but in the absence of them being documented, it becomes a gray area. And this is attempting to solve that gray area. Hope that's reasonable.
All right, do we have any recommendations on this? You want to defer this, or?
So may I make a motion to defer it to the selectmen?
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we'll defer that to the selectmen then. I don't have Article 23.
Yeah, just keep going. There is no Article 23.
No Article 23, okay. Article 24 is another Board of Selectmen article. It's a new bylaw. General bylaws. Does this have anything to do with finance, Greg?
Not directly, but it does create and confirm what the duties of the town administrator will be. The duties and responsibilities are similar to what you see in other communities. It's being done in the form of a bylaw or special act legislation,
Okay.
which means it becomes part of the governing body of the town. The duties and responsibilities are similar to what I've been doing, and I think, as I've said to people, I'm not gonna be here forever. I know what my job entails, and I have a good understanding. I've been doing this for 35 years, but I'm not gonna be doing it for another 35 years. And I think what the Board of Selectmen anticipates, at some point, there'll be a transition, and the new person that comes on board will need to have an understanding of what his or her primary job duties will be, and this really confirms what that is.
So we don't really have much, there's not much here on for finance, so,
That
You
would
wanna-
be defer to the selectmen again.
yeah, if you wanna
probably.
make that motion, yeah.
Oh, I make a motion to defer Article 24 to the selectmen as, not as written.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion on this?
No.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. For the select. All right, Article 25. All right, this is a planning board article, for a special use permit. So Greg, this is the article that came up a couple months ago at our
Yeah.
special town meeting, right?
It was. So this article was brought up at the special town meeting in August. It was defeated by, I believe, 2 votes.
Mhm.
And the planning board has sponsored it. They are allowed to do so under the law, even though the article has been defeated. And so the article would provide for a rezoning of a parcel of land off of Ramshorn Road. And in return, the developer has indicated that they will proceed in upgrading Partridge Hill Road to town standards suitable for acceptance. So the proposal is substantially the same as what we saw, and the original understanding that we have with the solar developer remains in place.
Okay. Is there any estimate, did the developer have any estimate as to what it would cost to fix this?
The road?
Yeah, any, did they do it?
Yeah, we have that. I'm gonna say upwards of $75,000.
Okay, and,
I think the comment that was made at that town meeting was, well, we can find some other way of funding it. And that is completely, totally false. There is no other way to fund it. That road will remain unaccepted in perpetuity because the town cannot spend town funds to improve a private unaccepted road.
right,
It's kinda like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. You cannot spend money, and I would never recommend that the town spend money. You see
Okay.
what our financial situation is here. When we have a proposal in place that I think is pretty creative, that allows us to fix a road and get it up to grade, and if people don't want it, then they're gonna face the fact that that road will never be improved. And that's the bottom line.
has the solar company, give some sort of preliminary pilot agreement?
Not yet,
Not yet, so.
but
we-
they have indicated a willingness to do so.
Okay. So, anybody have any questions on this?
I don't know. This is like a planning board
Right.
discussion.
It's a planner issue.
Like I said, we don't generally, make recommendations on a planning board or change of the zoning. But it does involve some significant money. They're looking for a spot zone. Yet, we don't really have any concrete plan of how to fix the road, or exactly how much it costs, or who's gonna pay for it. And we don't have a pilot agreement to tell us what we're gonna get for it. And it was defeated 3 months ago. And I'll ask anybody if they know, is this, I know by statute, the planning board can put this up as many times as they want. Is this something we've done before in town? I have never seen a defeated article come back up 3 months later, so.
I have not, Mr. Chairman. It was always my understanding, something gets defeated, it sort of went away. Why, we even had a special town meeting for this in the summer, correct?
Yeah, literally 3 months ago.
And I can't recall the specific action that was taken in the spring, but it made it, it had to have been not defeated so that it returned at a later date.
Any comment, anything, Greg, on this, or?
No,
I mean, I foresee the potential of, another solar field with a pilot agreement, and we're always looking for revenue.
Right.
That's very important. But, when you don't have, when you're looking for spot zoning, and you don't have at least an estimate in place to fix the road you're supposed to fix, and you don't have at least something from the solar company to say, this is what we're potentially going to do, even if it's a preliminary thing.
no, we have an agreement that we reached with the solar developer back in August.
Okay.
Which is, I don't have it in front of me, but it spelled out exactly what they were committed to do. They were committing to upgrade the road to the standards that the selectmen considered acceptable, the selectmen considered appropriate for acceptance.
Okay.
So they agreed in writing that they would do all these different things. They would put in berms and overlays and repair all, so we have that in writing. They
Okay.
said they would do all of this stuff. And there's no reason to believe if this is voted, they still won't continue to do that.
Okay. Is there anything on a pilot agreement that?
No.
They haven't discussed that?
No.
Do we know how big the field may be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we do. I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of the size of it, but I know that the planning board has this information, and I have this information also. I just kind of lost touch of it since August.
I remember being at that meeting, and I think there were a lot of questions, and there were like a couple that were important, but there wasn't like a concrete answer, and I think it just threw a lot of people off with this. Like, I sort of don't feel comfortable. I feel like I don't know what to do about it.
Well, the one thing I'm certain is we can't spend $1 in town funds
Right.
to improve a road, and I heard that is why doesn't the town spend money to improve this road versus, and that's not gonna happen. I'll be as respectful as I can, but we're not gonna do that.
Right. Okay. I mean, so we have some options on what we do here. And say I haven't, I'd feel more comfortable making recommendations if I saw the pilot agreement and saw, Greg does say that we do have,
We do.
an estimate somewhat, to
Yeah.
fix the road, so I'd feel more comfortable making a recommendation. If you don't want to make a recommendation and send this off to the planning board and let them make the motion. Rich?
Mr. Chairman, through you, did they hold a public hearing for this
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow night?
So there's the zoning, I think it's 7:00. So all of the zoning issues that are on this warrant have to come up to a public hearing tomorrow evening.
Now, does that fall within the statute of
It
what
does.
the planning board's required to do?
Yes, so they can hold a public hearing up until any time prior to town meeting. I've seen public hearings held at town meeting.
Okay.
So my question, could this be pushed back until after tomorrow's meeting?
Well, I mean, like I said, we can either recommend it, we don't have to recommend it, or we can defer to the planning board and let this be argued on the floor. Really, we don't have anything other than, it's a change of bylaw, so we really don't make decisions on changes of bylaws, unless they have a monetary issue, but, so, I'll leave it up to you guys, what you wanna do. I'm saying, I'm not,
Have a thought?
well, my thoughts, taking off, the hat of the FAA as a citizen of the town of Dudley, when an article's defeated, it really shouldn't, we shouldn't try over and over again and keep throwing it down. I mean, because you're eventually gonna get a favorable situation when you have that, so, that's you know, the hearing was here, it was, so that's just me as a
So we could
citizen,
just,
but, you know, as a member of the FAA, what's best for the town, I think what's best for the town is to have that road fixed and, you know, for a substantial pilot agreement to be formed. That brings in the revenue for the town, so, kind of.
Mike, can I just jump in for a second?
Sure.
I think there's two parallel tracks. My interest is seeing the road fixed. And that's my primary goal and objective throughout this whole thing is get the road fixed. Because the residents complain about it all the time. Call our office, what are you gonna do? I realize there's another issue in terms
Right,
of
that's what I'm
open
trying-
space and development of another solar facility. And so when I speak only to the issue of the road, and my goal was singular.
Okay.
I know the other people are concerned about it.
Right, so,
And I apologize if it makes it seem I'm talking about that.
my personal opinion is, is to defer this to the planning board, let them make their
I would be
motion, and
comfortable with
let
that.
this happen on the floor.
I'd be comfortable with that. That would be my recommendation.
I don't think it's anything we're involved with.
Right, okay, so does anybody want to make a motion here?
So I make a motion to defer Article 25 to the planning board?
And I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say it. Rich?
If it pleases the chairman, somebody were to attend tomorrow night's public hearing, and there were some positive things or negative things, maybe you reserve the right to revisit this because you'll have a duly posted meeting prior to the town meeting, correct?
Yep.
So you can make sure that your questions are answered. Or conversely, if there isn't an acceptable answer, you at least have the option to go through and do something. Because I'll agree with you that this is a contentious article. There's two impassioned sides on this.
Right.
You don't want to turn gray and say, oh, well, we'll waffle until the last minute, but you have a good opportunity tomorrow night to hold somebody's feet to the fire and say, listen, we need this fact, we need that fact. You'd want to say that everybody would step up and say, I have the best answers for you. You also need to be able to accept that you didn't receive the answer you were hoping for and take the appropriate action, and that's, I agree with you, this is a tough one.
Yeah, well, they say it's a spot zone, which really financially doesn't have anything to do with the committee, so, but there is underlying financial matters here.
Right.
Right, there's the potential of revenue.
Right.
To the flip side, in emergencies, Mr. Town Administrator, don't we, if we get a great snowfall or something like that, the selectmen reserve the right to open the road up?
Absolutely.
Was the emergency snow?
Absolutely.
So there is a financial detriment in the event that, you know, this is just a poor condition road, you break a plow in the middle of a snowstorm. So there's a value to a good road.
Right.
Not damaging your equipment, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. So basically, we have, you know, two very positive things that can happen out of this. One is obviously we get the road fixed. The other is a potential pilot agreement down the road. But it will be a contentious article since it's being put up again, just after it was defeated. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I think you raised a good point. I think it would be wise to put a circle on the calendar for Tuesday, October 30th, because there's always the possibility we go a second evening. That's our second night, if we have to go a second night.
Tuesday.
And this sure looks like a second night warrant to me.
Well, once we get to this article, this could,
We have another one coming up, too. We have the next article.
Of course.
all right. Should we make a motion on this now? That way we have a motion. If we need to change our motion on this, we can at town meeting. we've had problems having quorums going into town meeting, for the FAA, so, I'm just saying, would a recommendation to defer this article to the planning board be the wise decision? Now,
You're talking about 26.
25,
25, you're going
Yes.
back to the solar.
yes. We haven't had a recommendation on this yet.
I would defer it to the planning board.
All right. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Yeah, I agree, I second
Okay. Any other discussion on this? All right, all in favor of deferring Article 25 to the planning board to make the motion? Say
Aye.
All right, so we'll do that. All right, Article 26.
13 and a half pages. The good news is it's been written by the planner, and I provided comments, and then town council has also rewritten it, so I don't expect that there'll be really any changes here unless they come in the form of motions or amendments from the floor.
Greg, is there anything monetary for the town with this?
Yeah, not in the bylaw, but we do have a 3% tax that we adopted for any sale of
Sale of this,
marijuana
right.
products. So that potentially brings some money in. And then if a facility comes to Dudley, we can enter into something called the host agreement. And the host agreement can also provide the town with an amount of money in compensation for services incurred by public safety and other departments.
Okay.
But that's not in here, that's in state law.
Is there a place in town that's zoned for that?
Yeah, so if you look at there's a district chart, so you turn the second page. There are no marijuana establishments allowed in a number of zones, so any place where you see an NP, it means not permitted. And then where you see a SPPB, that's the special permit that would be granted by the planning board for any type of marijuana establishment. So not allowed in residential 10, 15, 30. There's some limited uses allowed in the larger residential zones, but all of them would require a special permit through the planning board.
And is this just for, like, retailers or facilities, or is this like for agriculture too? Like if somebody
All.
wanted to farm, everything, one-stop shopping?
All.
Okay.
All, but what's not included in here is if you want to have a marijuana club where you would be consuming it on premises, that's not permitted in any zone. So there is no on-premises consumption allowed through this bylaw.
But then if you wanted to have a marijuana club, I would think you would have to be zoned to have a club.
This all goes under the state law. We can prohibit, the town can prohibit and regulate. No, there's no on-premises consumption that's allowed. If this bylaw passes, whether you call yourself a club or you call yourself some private organization, you can't consume on-site. There's no on-site uses, because that creates, and Chief is here, he can speak to the problem with impaired drivers coming out of a marijuana
Well,
club
I
and
totally,
hitting the road,
Right.
and that's not something the planning board,
right.
or I feel is something we need to do here.
So,
Yeah, there's just one other piece in here. The number of establishments, retail establishments, is tied to the number of liquor licenses that the town issues. So, is it two? It's either 2 or 3 is the maximum number that you could have. So it's not unlimited. There's not unlimited facilities or unlimited retail establishments that come to town. It's limited and it's capped.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 20% of the number of licenses the town has issued for sale of retail alcoholic beverages not to be consumed on premises on the shop. So it's, how many packets all up? So it's 20% of the all alcohol sales. Yeah, that's it. So there's the cap.
Nice.
And again, I just want to say council has written this, and put this together and made all of the changes that are necessary to comply with the law. So I'm hoping it passes.
Briefly, Greg, what, if it doesn't, what is, what happens
We
if
have
this-
unregulated uses where someone can come in and say that they want to operate a retail business.
Yeah.
And as long as it's in a retail zone, you could have them located here, there, and everywhere. So this provides some method of regulating,
Okay.
which is a very wise position to be in.
Financially, obviously this is a big article, really doesn't have a lot. The only financial component to this is the 3%.
Yeah, it's actually in here.
So I know Massachusetts allows this for us to take 3%, but you know, I read a lot about what's happening in this industry, and even though Massachusetts approved it and allows you to tax it at 3%, there's still a lot of regulations on banking for a lot of these places. They can't put their money in federal banking and stuff like that. Can a town federally, can we accept this money? Is there any federal problems with us accepting money on this?
I'm sure Mr. Carmignani will say if they come in with a check,
I mean, with a bunch of
don't wanna-
$1
he's happy to
bills.
cash it.
I always thought if you have a 3% tax on it, wouldn't that be treated like your hotel and prepared meals tax? Where these establishments would file quarterly, and then Massachusetts would go through and give us the remittance on the 4th month or 5th month, however they had reconciled it.
Right.
Nichols College goes through and serves a prepared meal, and they charge that 0.75%. And it just sort of,
Right, you get a check for a couple $1,000s or whatever that looks like. But this is a cash business, so it comes out a little
Well,
bit different.
but I can't imagine that you would have a business in Massachusetts, and as much as it's a cash business, the Commonwealth has to put their hands out saying, listen, you just sold, argument's sake, $10,000 worth of merchandise in the last quarter. Okay, we expect you to file your taxes. You are a business. Or maybe annually, however they're doing it. So I
mean, I'm sure that the feds aren't gonna send in troops.
Well, there had to have been an accommodation for this.
Well-
I think the real issue with this is federally it's illegal, and in the state it's legal, and then if you were to go through and, I don't know, borrow money at the municipal rate to fund a project or an improvement that potentially, I don't know, but there is an answer. There'd have to be an answer.
If it's legal in Massachusetts, and you live in West Dudley and you cross the line through Connecticut and get stopped, 'cause Connecticut doesn't allow it, right? So you have to
You,
stay.
also, you have the ability, as much as it's legal, it doesn't mean your employer has to approve of your
Right.
use.
Right.
Right.
So there's a million and one
Well,
questions.
the only concern I had, and it was a financial matter, is even though a state legalizes the use of this, can a town tax something that's federally illegal? Are we participating in something,
I think
collecting money?
your answers are in Charlton. Charlton's got about 4 businesses looking at coming to the community and, you know, promising some municipal money and a whole bunch of nice things.
Yeah, it's a lot of money in it. I'm just wondering if that's, you know, unless it's federally legal, like I say, you can't take a whole bunch of cash and put it into a local bank that's FDIC insured, right? From a marijuana business. I guess that's one of the big things when it comes to marijuana.
So what does Colorado and Washington do?
They have a lot of cash.
I just want to make one final point. So we have a moratorium that was voted. It expires on November 15th of this year. So part of the reason why we've been calm compared to some of these other communities is we did establish a moratorium to allow us to prepare this bylaw. So it's important that this be considered at town meeting, and the timing is for this town meeting, not spring
Right.
now. Otherwise, we're unregulated business.
So Greg, help me understand, if I wanted to purchase the Stevens Linen on Schofield Ave, it's for rent, and I wanted to set up a marijuana facility for medical marijuana or whatever, could I do that?
Yeah, you gotta jump through all these hoops.
I do.
Yeah.
As long as I do these things, I can do it. And I can do it in 2 places, but it can only be 2 in in town of Dudley.
Right, 2 or 3.
Okay.
I know there's a fraction, it's like the number of licenses, it's either 2 or 3. So, I don't know why Charlton is inundated. I can't explain why. We have not been inundated, but my guess is that if we don't do something, we will be inundated.
Along those lines, the town of Dudley effectuated zoning for adult entertainment, or there was a very soft title for it, and the whole idea was if you regulated it through your zoning, then you could sort of control where it was going. The lack of your specific direction for it, like Mr. Valiacona said, somebody could.
I think it's kind of funny because I just found out that my mother-in-law's house, which burned down a couple months ago, is zoned for adult entertainment. So we're opening up a club. We'll call Grandma's. Leave Chef's involved. He's coming.
All right, all right, so as far as this article, it's 13 pages long, really doesn't have much to do with
Who
finance. Fortunately, being 13 pages long, the people who smoke this stuff ain't gonna get through it, so, so it's up to you guys. You wanna, similar to Article 25, do you wanna defer this to the planning board to make this?
But it has to be decided on relatively soon because of the November 15th.
Yeah, it's got to be decided on this time,
so-
how many more.
Okay,
we-
so my choice is to defer it to planning.
Well, we can defer it to the planning board, or we can-
accept it as written.
Yep. Like I say, we deferred this one, that doesn't have much
By
to do.
accepting it, we have some control over it. If we don't do anything, you have no control over it.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
So if we didn't accept it, could 4 facilities come into Dudley and farm and sell and do all kinds of things if we didn't do this?
Maybe more.
Really?
Yeah.
So this puts a cap on it with 2-ish.
2 or 3.
Okay,
And again, doesn't provide for on-premises consumption.
okay,
You can't have a marijuana cafe.
okay.
And there are many requirements that the establishment needs to go through to ensure that the public is protected.
Right.
Otherwise, you have a completely unregulated business, and that would not be a good
So
place
if you
to
were a
be.
private club, like the P&A or something like that, could they?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
How about those Red Sox? Okay,
Nope, can't do it.
okay.
So, anybody wanna make a motion on this? Got it?
I'm gonna make a motion to accept it as written.
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, Article 27, this is that what we're on here? This is the police department. Chief came to capital improvement and, requested a F-150 pickup truck. We've been replacing vehicles pretty much for the last 3 years now.
You have a report from the chief?
Yep. We have a report on the vehicles he has. Did you, Chief, did you know which one you were gonna replace? Did you come down to that yet?
Yes, actually on the report, I think I checked off the wrong one, but it's gonna be our 2010 Ford Crown Victoria. Right now, it's got about 126,000 miles on it right now. So that would be the next one in line to go.
Does anybody have any questions for the chief on this?
Basically, for the members that weren't at the Capital Improvement Committee, what we had done was we had secured a debt exclusion vote a few years back, and we had bought vehicles one a year over the last 3 years. And so that money is now ran out. I was exploring the fact of trying to re-up it again, but with the override vote taking place in the spring, we didn't want to overwhelm the voters or anything else like that, so we deferred it off and had some discussions with the administrator that we'd like to keep the plan up of getting one vehicle a year to go through the process. So as we looked and see what we were going to do, we figured roughly in the $45,000 to $50,000 range is what they cost now with the equipment. The vehicles we had looked at, we just bought a Dodge Charger, so that's one that we have there. The Ford Taurus was a patrol vehicle that had been being used. However, that's getting phased out by Ford. They're not going to be making that one anymore. Next is the Ford Explorer that we have bought and we've had success with. The one thing they're out doing with that vehicle this year as well is doing a remodel of it. So it's going to be a new version of that. So the questions always came up with that was we've had some experience with getting vehicles in their first year when they come out, and there's usually a lot of bugs and things that have to be worked out in the first year. You have more success in the second year. So one of the things we had looked at this time was trying to get a pickup truck. We've had use for it for a long time. We have our speed trailers and utility trailers, barricades, other things that we have to transport and tow around that we're using our private vehicles for at this point. So it's we're going to try to. It's a four-door vehicle. We can still use it for patrol purposes. Going to be equipped with a cage and everything else like that, so we can still transport prisoners. So we can still use it as a regular patrol vehicle. It's rather fuel efficient. I think it gets around overall average about 21 miles per gallon, so it's pretty fuel efficient as well. And the cost of it is again right in line with other vehicles that we have. So I asked for the $50,000 figure on there. I was checking around for some of our financial sources, and I know I have some money in our cruiser detail fund that we generate money that comes in from detail use that gets put into a fund that we can delegate for those purposes. So if it was necessary, I could probably drop that down to about $45,000 in order to and make it up with the other funding in there, just to kind of save it up, and you'll have money for other things. So that's basically the explanation in a nutshell, and I can help out with any questions that you have.
Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, my only question is just affordability. We have a limited amount of money, and we have $906,000 in total town meeting requests. We just don't have a lot of money to be able to do something like this. If you do it and you purchase it, then what's going to need to happen is we need to kind of reevaluate the amount of money that we're carrying forward for Springtown meeting. So that's $30,740.67. We would dedicate that for this purchase. And then what we would also do is if you would like to, we would reprogram the money set for the stabilization fund to meet this expense. Those are kind of our options.
Chief, how important is it to get it right now?
Well, what'll happen is if we get approval for this, we'll order it, and it generally takes about 4 to 6 months to take delivery. So that will be probably sometime spring once it gets approved.
Oh.
Our only problem is we've done this too many times in the past. We've kicked the can down the road, and what happens is other vehicles get tired along the way, and then you replace now one. Let's say you don't do it now, but you replace one next year. Well, okay, now we've got 2 other ones that are getting older, and we're now taking the one now that we're using still on a fairly regular basis. That's got 126,000 miles on it. That's going to get very tired. So we spread the use around through the fleet in order to try to keep the mileage down. But what you're doing basically is taxing more of the vehicles along the way and using them more and more. And so that now ages the fleet up the line. So again, that is the problem we ran into before, where we used to kick it off and say, well, we'll wait this year and buy one next year, and not buy one now, buy
Right.
one then. And we just run into that problem where we're not on a regular rotation basis. These cars aren't like our own personal vehicles that we use, that we can get away with 100,000 miles, no problem. These get a lot of hard miles and a lot of running time on them. So the maintenance costs on these get really, really heavy over
I
time.
didn't catch which vehicle you would replace it with?
You'd be looking at number 206. It's a 2010 Ford Crown Victoria. It has about 126,000 miles on it. So if there's a figure you want to work with, like I said, I think that cruiser fund has about $8,000 in it. So I could, again, maybe adjust it down to about 42, somewhere in that range if we want to do that. And maybe try to work on a couple other dollar figures if that's something that was acceptable.
Any other questions for the chief on this? Chief, just a quick question.
Hmm?
The previous debt exclusion, when we went 3 years,
Hmm?
had it gone 5, let's say.
Yep.
Would this, and this is the vehicle you need, this would have fell into that, obviously would have fell into
Yes.
that 5-year deal?
Yeah, what I'd asked for it originally was a
So-
5-year plan, yes.
Right, so originally, yeah, you did ask for 5 years. Is that something you're gonna look to do again?
I'd love to. Yeah, like I said, I want to do it in the spring, but we had discussions with the selectman, the administrator, and especially right on the heels of an override that had just gone through, it didn't seem to be a prudent thing to
Right.
jam on the taxpayers, and I totally understand that. So I figured it would be a way to get this for now, and maybe look at
So-
that, something in the spring.
So if that 5-year had gone through originally the way you wanted it, you would actually be ordering in the spring anyway, right?
I would be ordering
It's coming
I'd be
spring.
ordering at this time of the year, roughly around Christmas time, and take delivery of it in the spring.
Right. Do you plan on going for doing a 5-year thing?
Oh, I'd like to.
It seemed to work out great.
I think it
We
worked
didn't have
great.
to revisit. We're
I'd like
replacing it
to,
every year and-
I think that was a discussion about bringing it up again in the spring,
Yeah.
which would be fine. But again, for our purposes now, as we look at it, even let's say it's approved at the June meeting, that gets approved, and then we start acting on it, we're actually not ordering anything until July or August, and then you're taking delivery probably in January, February. So now
Takes
you're,
that long.
now you're up the line from there. So this isn't like going down to the local dealership and walking on a Friday saying, I'll take that car and I drive out with it tomorrow. It just doesn't work that way, so. If it,
And they don't
love it if it did.
reduce the prices at the end of the year like an auto dealership, like usually if you're gonna buy a car, you should probably buy it like around December 30th. So is like this a good time to purchase a vehicle or not necessarily?
I don't think it's necessary there. I think what they do is they estimate roughly how many vehicles they're gonna sell for the course of the year, and they'll order that block of vehicles. And then if they don't have them in stock, they'll shift them from other dealerships and bring them in.
Do you go to a certain
Mark them
place
up.
to get?
Yeah, we've been dealing with municipal headquarters, MHQ, up in Marlboro. They're a state contract, so it's everything is set at that price
Okay,
there.
so you don't go to the local dealer.
No, because the big problem with that, we have bought some vehicles like that, and the problem is that they're not built for the use we need them. So they don't have the high-speed suspension and wiring and all the other things that we use, because we have to run, again, radio wires and other things that go through these vehicles. And at least the vehicles you buy with the police package are built for everything there. Because the problem you have is you just take a regular vehicle and you equip it, it rusts out, wires go short, there's all kinds of issues with it there, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Greg, you're thinking just wait until spring and
Spring.
that would be a better option or?
Well, I think to me, that's probably the way I would put it. I don't disagree with the fact that it's needed. I just don't see that we have the revenue to be able to do it.
Greg, we couldn't raise and appropriate this at all, huh?
$2,237, we could put
Wow.
toward it. I mean, our estimates are pretty conservative, and that's one of the reasons why we have free cash every year, is we try to come up with a conservative revenue plan. So, that's what we see as money. We get through the spring and we don't need the $30,740, and we possibly have surpluses in other accounts, then we can transfer money at that time, but I'm respectful of the chief's request. I just don't see how we can fund it, and there's, you're gonna come up on a bunch of other things that we're gonna defer funding on too. I'm gonna suggest we defer funding on it for the same reason, we just don't have the money.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other thoughts on this? And it just doesn't appear that the money is there right now to do it. I hate to get back into that routine where Chief, you're coming. He's asking.
Me
asking
too.
about cars, dude. There's nobody to buy it. I mean,
Well, I mean, that's my thing, is, if, one of my things too is if it wasn't gonna be able to be done, I probably would have worked and put a debt exclusion on for the November election.
Right.
Because I'm trying to time these things out so that we're spacing them out, but I don't wanna have any special elections or cost any other funding for that.
right.
So if something like this couldn't get done, and that's why I think my discussions, especially with some of the members of the Board of Selectmen, when we deferred not putting the article on in the springtime, was, look, I'm fine with waiting on it if you understand that this is what I want to do. I want to at least be able to get this done. If we can do it, I'm fine with it. If not, I'd like to look at another option, which again would have been putting something on the ballot. So that's just a little bit of a frustration.
As it, go ahead.
If you've got a different vehicle, I know you said you need the pickup truck, but if you got a different one that would replace one of the older ones, could you defer the pickup for later?
I could, but I think the only problem is that they're roughly around the same amount of dollars. It's not like I can go buy a car now for $25,000 and be done with it. Something like this, I can look to trim a few things back, cut a few thousand out of it, and spend some again my cruiser
I was
funds.
just curious whether you could defer the truck to later and bring in a new one.
Yeah, I mean the only other possibility is if there was a shorter dollar amount, I could perhaps lease it, which we'd do it over a 3-year span. That would cut the cost down on this to right around roughly about less than $20,000, maybe about $18,000, somewhere in that range over a 3-year span. I could do something like that if that was an option that was available. If there was again $20,000 that was available, or even $15,000, and I could use some other cruiser money, I could look into a lease. That could be another thing. It would just be something that we'd pay forward, and I could probably even include that in my budget come spring. So that could be another option if you had some money to set aside for it. I can get a price on that and try to work on that as a possibility.
Any thoughts, Greg, on that?
Hadn't given any thought to it. Maybe hold off on making a recommendation, we go back and revisit it.
And maybe if we have a not crazy winter, we'll maybe have extra money.
Well, the challenge is we have such a small snow budget.
I know.
We get into this time of year, and most of the snow budget has already been spoken for because we have to buy materials. So, and we do a lot of the work in-house, so, I mean, I think the only thing we can hope is that we don't have a deficit in the snow budget, which we typically don't have, but it's October, and we got hail on the ground that looked like snow today.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably the best idea, is to kind of
Hold off.
on this. And if it doesn't go through, Chief, obviously you take your orders, I guess, from the selectmen you talk to. I would highly recommend that we go back to the same thing you did 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Absolutely.
that's the plan.
I mean, it was very little amount added to the real estate tax bill, very little amount. And we replaced a cruiser every single year, and it was nice to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to be consistent amounts, relatively consistent amounts.
Mm-hmm.
So a debt exclusion is the way to go with that. And I don't know why we went to 3 years. I would have liked the 5-year,
Yep.
but I would certainly be for that in the spring, definitely.
Okay. Well, what I'll do just for information purposes, I'll try to get what a lease figure would be. So
Okay.
if it's something that comes up or something changes, especially before the meeting, then we can address it. At least we'll have the ideas. and then we'll work on everything else from there.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to, we're not just gonna hold off on this? We don't need a motion, do we? No. All right, stabilization fund. Greg, you think we can get 30,000 into the stabilization fund?
I do.
Okay. You didn't wanna try to get that up to 250, huh? Even? I mean,
Maybe in the spring. Maybe in the spring. I just feel like we can't leave town meeting without having some money left in free cash. There's
Right.
too many things that can happen.
right?
And, like I said, winter is the chief concern. But with your reserve fund at $20,000, there's just not a lot of wiggle room.
Right,
We'll do our best.
okay. So, so out of free cash, we'll add 30,000 to stabilization. Okay,
All right, so, I second the article, Article 28 as written.
you second, or you wanna,
All right, I make a motion to accept Article 28 as written.
Okay.
I'll second it.
okay. Is there any other discussion on Article 28? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 29, so we're funding the merit increases.
It's
And
not
is
only
this
merit.
Veterans Office too, or?
Yeah, so we typically do merit at this town meeting, and there's a process in place to give employees merit increases. I think it works pretty well, but we're also looking to bring our veteran services offices up to 19 hours a week. That's a commitment that we made at the Springtown meeting that we did not fund. So the intent of this is to bring that department up to 19 hours a week from 7,
Mm-hmm.
and also fund the secretary's position above what it is right now. And the evidence was there at town meeting, we just didn't have an opportunity to react because it all kind of came up at the last minute.
Okay,
He's been approved by the Board of Selectmen to work 19 hours a week.
19? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do you know what portion is just for that, or?
Oh, $15,000.
15? Okay. All right. Is there any questions for
No.
Greg on this?
No.
All right,
I make a motion to accept Article 29 as written.
I'll second it.
okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Article 30 is the sewer department. This is just a transfer out of their retained earnings, I believe. For the Phase 1 of the mandated infiltration
Sure.
study. Any questions on this for Greg, or? When did they start that, Greg?
Now,
Right now?
yeah. So it's under where the town has been directed by DEP
Mm-hmm.
to do this. It's there'll be additional funding requests for this project, I believe, over not only this town meeting, but spring and for fall town meeting of 2019. So, and I think the Water and Sewer Commissioners have got a good engineer on board to kind of walk us through this process. It's mandated, it's required. Town meeting always an opportunity to say no, but we'd hope that they wouldn't do so, because the end result of this is the amount of clean water that gets into the sewer system is reduced, and the amount of money that we pay Webster for our effluent goes down because we're not sending clean water over to their treatment. So there's a win in it for ratepayers.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Any questions on this? All right, and again, this comes out of their retained earnings for the sewer department. All right, we have a
So
motion.
I make a motion to accept Article 30 as written.
I'll second
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
it.
Aye.
Aye, all right. Next one is another article from the sewer department. This was this is for a camera. This was approved by capital improvement. It's a sewer line video camera. It goes down for regular maintenance to check all the sewer lines for cracks and problems. Capital improvement, had heard, members of the sewer department talk about this. They, provided a cost, of what this was and what it was all about, and this capital improvement did approve it. So, if there's any questions for anybody, for Greg, or, this also comes out of their retained earnings, so.
So, I make a motion to accept Article 31 as written.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Article 32 is in Economic Development Committee. This is to establish a new agricultural advisory commission. We're not funding this for anything, Greg? There's no money in this, right?
No dollars.
So it's up to you guys what you wanna do. We usually defer this to that committee. Make a
So we
motion.
would defer to the agricultural advisory.
To economic development.
Okay.
And let them make their
Sure.
motion and make their argument. Why
Okay,
they-
so I make a motion to defer Article 32 to the Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And 33 is basically the same, kind of the same
For
thing,
Rec Committee.
for our Recreation Committee.
Mhm.
There's no money in this one either, is there?
None.
Okay. Any questions for Greg first? All right.
So we defer to the
I think
Economic.
pretty much.
Okay, so I make a motion to defer Article 33 to the Economic Development Committee as written.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So, Article 34, Cemetery Commission. Was this just change of bylaw? Add the veterans laws?
Establishes that we have a
Veterans law?
veterans section in our cemetery available for veterans and their dependents.
And there's no cost that would come from like veteran reimbursement? There's no cost.
No, I believe the only cost is the cost of the opening. There's a cost associated with that. It's for cremations, so the section of the space is appropriate for cremations, and that's all.
Okay.
It's something that's been worked on for a long time.
Is this all the cemeteries or just?
Just our cemetery.
Yeah,
Corbin.
then Corbin.
Just Corbin.
Just Corbin.
All right, what do you guys wanna do with this?
I'm fine with it.
No, fine.
Make a motion if you
So I
want.
make a motion to accept Article 34 as written, or defer to the cemetery? I would just, I can accept
Is
it as
it-
written.
The Cemetery Commission, anybody there gonna be there to make a motion?
Selectmen. Selectmen.
Selectmen can do it?
Yeah, they are. They're the commissioners.
Oh, okay. All right, so you wanna defer to the Selectmen?
Okay, sure.
Make a-
Right, so I make a recommendation to refer Article 34 to the selectmen.
I second it.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. 35 is Highway Department. This came in front of Capital Improvement Committee. This is a one-ton, heavy-duty dump truck that they've been requesting for quite a while. I think it's been about a couple of years now, Rich, yeah. Any questions on it? Nobody here is here from the Highway Department, but Greg, do you have anything you want to add on this one?
I talked to the acting highway superintendent. I said, what's your priority given the number of requests that you had?
Mhm.
This was the department's highest priority.
Great.
It's something that's needed. He convinced me that should be given priority. And like I said, it's been on, we've seen it before.
Yes.
So I think it's a good idea, a prudent idea to consider for funding.
Okay. Yeah, this is, like I say, as a member of the Capital Improvement Committee, we've seen this 2 or 3 times now come up as a need. Unfortunately, the price keeps going up every
It
time.
does, which is a good reason to buy it
Right,
now.
yeah, so, and these things we keep for a long, long, long time, so. Any questions on this? And this is coming out of free cash,
Yeah, it is.
so we're gonna pay for this in full, one shot.
But it says that they're gonna trade in the 98 one-ton truck, and the proceeds are gonna go applied to the purchase?
Right, so
Okay.
if we get $2,000 for the 1998 truck, then obviously we won't spend the
Okay,
entirety in the balance
sure.
of this account.
Okay. So I can make a recommendation to accept Article 35 as written.
Okay,
I second it.
all right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Here's the other article that the highway department submitted. This is, 12,000. Was this for a plow?
Just the
Their
plow.
tires.
Just,
All tires?
Tires.
It
plow-
says-
one's a plow blade, and the other is tires.
Okay, so 36 is the tires.
True.
And we have a recommendation to pass this over till the fall, till spring, or is this just a pass over?
Passover, my thought is that we don't have the money in hand to be able to do this.
Right.
If he's stuck and he can't get a plow, he can always buy it through his snow budget, convince the selectmen that it's an appropriate purchase from the snow budget, and we add it to that.
Okay.
But, you know, the same thing is, we just don't have the
Just
money
have
to
the
fund
money,
everything.
Okay.
Okay. So anybody wanna make the motion here? Or is there any questions?
So we would make a motion to pass it over
Yeah.
according to that warrant.
Yeah,
All right, so Article 36, I make a motion to pass it over to the warrant.
that's printed in the
as
warrant,
printed
okay.
in the warrant.
And we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Article 37 also is, that's for the plow blade, right? All right, and we already heard from Greg, so do you wanna make a motion on that?
And so I make a motion for Article 37 to pass it over in the warrant as written.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Article 38, this is, the building and grounds. This is the discussion you had with him, he thought that this was, on the back burner. This is another, request from building and grounds, is to get them a truck, light-duty one-ton dump truck. They've been requesting this for quite a while.
Yeah, this has
Unfortunately,
been on every year.
this is just, at some point, we're gonna have to get this, but apparently the money's not there. So, any questions for Greg or?
I just, if the highway department's gonna trade in a dump truck towards a new one, and they didn't need a dump truck, unless the other one's really in bad condition, why can't they get it?
It's in poor shape.
It's in poor shape. Well, it's-
And he always, I mean, my case is, Building and Grounds does have an opportunity to borrow equipment.
Wow, yeah.
And granted, it's not dedicated to them, they have to kind of put their request in. But the two departments do share equipment,
okay.
so it's not as though they're completely stuck.
Any questions for Greg on this?
No, so we're just gonna pass it over.
That's my recommendation.
Okay. So I make a recommendation to pass over Article 38 as printed in the warrant as written.
I'll second
All right, any more discussion? All in favor?
it. Aye.
All right. Article 39, animal control. Capital improvement approved, there was a bid on a brand-new F-150, as much as, it went up to $33,875. That had been approved in case there was some money potentially to buy a brand-new truck. But did we come up with any solutions for her?
Yeah, we have two. So the water department has a truck that they're willing to give her.
Yeah.
And I spoke with the highway superintendent. They also have a pickup truck that's available.
Yeah.
Both are in operating condition, they're not new, they don't have a heated bed,
Nice.
but we would need to buy a cap. I asked the highway department as to whether they maybe had a spare cap that they could put on there. I consider it to be quite suitable. Is it perfect as a brand-new truck? No, But, it's certainly better than what we've had
What
in
she's
the
driving
past.
now, right?
It's really not drivable, what she has right now.
Right.
At least it gets her a couple of years to be able to use it. I know that, it's not the best solution, but if we're not gonna be buying police cruisers, I can't
We can't-
justify
yeah,
us buying a
Sure,
animal
I
control
agree.
pickup.
Okay. So we do have an option for her
We do,
going forward.
we
Okay.
do.
Good.
Nice, that's good, thank you.
Okay.
So I make a recommendation to, pass over Article 39 as written, printed in the warrant.
I'll second it.
All right.
You know what, there's a typo here, though, it says Article 34 here and Article 39 here.
Well, recommended action. So we'll just change it to an.
Okay.
Okay. Just make a note on that. Okay, is there any, do we have a second on that, right? Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and finally, I think we're done here, right? Article 40, this is a,
Oh, that's me.
this is a recurring,
Yes.
article that comes up every budget, supplemental budget. It's for 10,000, that's to preserve our archives downstairs. It looks like we're gonna change it down a little bit to 5,000. Do we have a match on it?
That's the goal, is to be able to secure the match. Even if it's not the full match, yeah.
Right.
We do, but the issue is we just don't have,
The money.
we just don't have, but I understand the commitment, and I've seen what the work that they've done. I think it's good, but I just don't think we can fully roll out the full funding this year.
Okay. So it's gonna be $5,000, and that's gonna be out of free cash.
Hopefully, the proponents will be pleased that we've made an effort to try to fund them.
Well, you don't have the money, you don't have money.
I know, but as you know, sometimes you have people stand up at town meetings and say, I'm gonna move to raise and appropriate. I don't realize that there's a finite amount of money that's available.
Okay.
That's
Um,
true everywhere.
So,
Trust me, you know.
does anybody have any questions on this article?
No.
No?
So I would make a motion to accept Article 40 as printed in the warrant and transfer $5,000 from free cash.
I'll second it.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. I think that's the end of the warrant. Oh, God. Time does socks start?
Checkbox.
8:09? Oh, boy. Is there any miscellaneous? Let me check my agenda.
Oh, all right. Well, but there was a big thunderstorm that just rolled through Boston.
Okay, so we got a
What
couple
we had
seconds
here
here.
a couple of hours ago, 3 hours ago, had to go through there.
Okay, is there any miscellaneous items? The, town meeting is on the 25th?
29th.
29th. It starts at 7. Is the,
Do you want me to post a meeting for 6:30?
well, yes, we might as well. Capital improvement doesn't need anything, so we might as well, because we do have to, go back to that one article.
6:30?
I would say 6:30, because we're on, go back to the article on the police. Is there any other article we need to go back on?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So the town meeting's October 29th at 7?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we go to, you know, I don't know what your procedure is.
So, 6:30, at on October 29th, at,
Shepherd Hill.
Shepherd Hill.
Here's the good news, Mr. Chairman. You've gotten through 90% of the warrant tonight, which a lot of times you don't consider until the night of town meeting.
Right, so, well, yeah, we couldn't, it's too big of a
We're
warrant.
gonna get through this.
So, so we'll meet there at 6:30, and we'll finalize, if there's any changes we need to make, or we'll finalize.
We meet where, at the,
Shepherd
Right-
Hill,
right-
right in the cafeteria,
in the
like if you
cafeteria.
park around the back.
okay. I'm just curious.
Yep.
No, I know, this'll be my second, so I totally understand.
So you go around the back of the building?
Yeah,
So, will you be able to make it?
Yeah.
Okay. You gonna be able to make it? I may have some difficulty, making it for the meeting, so.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
So,
So what does that look like then?
I'll be in touch with you guys.
Okay,
so.
What does that mean? I mean,
Right,
Well,
because-
we need at least 3 members
Three.
of our committee,
Right.
which means that you, Don, and you both, all 3 are gonna have to be there.
So what are we doing with that? That's, I don't,
Well, Don, if I'm not there, Don can gavel in a small meeting, and the only recommendation you would need to really talk about would be the police cruiser. That's it, right? I think that's the only.
And so the motions will be printed for town meeting?
Yep.
And typically, a member of the FAA reads the motions on financial articles.
Yep.
So everything will be laid out and printed, so you just need to read what's there. And if there are any questions, the department heads or I can jump up and answer those questions.
I'll do the best.
we really appreciate that.
Your moderator will be there, I will be there, your town administrator will be there, so no one gets to sit there and show up and stuff, it will run well.
Thank you.
All right.
The last time I think I just joined the FAA, like about a minute before that, or a week before that, and I'm like, what goes on? So I'm
yeah,
like,
well,
what does this look like?
Okay. Well, if there's no other miscellaneous stuff, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that one.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
All right.
Okay.